You mentioned the failed promise of a lot of these sort of legal mechanisms to address racism, that sort of thing. And I think whilst everyone supports 18C, there's also a sense that it's a little clumsy and difficult to use as an ordinary person. What do you think the best sort of legal sanction or is? Is it civil? Is it criminal? Is it defamation? Is it constitutional change?
I don't think it's any one of those things. I think, and nor do I think there's any science, like a recipe for getting the proportions right. But I think we know that we've got to be coming at it from lots of different areas. The New South Wales Parliament recently reviewed the criminal provisions for racial vilification in New South Wales, and I made a submission, and the committee agreed with this position, not necessarily my submission, that criminal sanctions, although they've never been used, are really important for people to know that the state says that there are really serious things that will attract the state's attention. So criminal sanctions are important, but can't be all of it. The opportunity for individuals to complain are important, but I think we know that can't be all of it. So the capacity for a statutory body to engage in oversight and address systemic issues with a capacity that the human rights commissions around the place don't have is really important. Positive duties, actually making large entities, public and private, responsible for taking active steps to not discriminate is important. I actually think, in my recent thinking, I'm going back to the 70s more than I ever thought, not just music and fashion, to affirmative action. I mean, discrimination is not about equality. Discrimination is about fair treatment, but it doesn't actually alter power relations. It just makes sure that the people who have power are not unfair to the people who don't. But if you actually want to try and even things out, a part of the mix is aggressive, reverse, positive discrimination. People are not going to come from behind unless you pick them up and you put them out in front so that they can actually start pedaling as fast as everybody else. So that's another part of the mix. I just think it really requires that kind of coordinated approach. And going back to the Racial Discrimination Act, it never happened. The real two examples of some attempt at this, the Disability Discrimination Act, when it was implemented under Peter Rush, came with a very significant budgetary package, a national rollout of education and dedicated advice centres that were there to make the Act work. So they didn't just put the Act out and hope. They actually worked quite hard to make it happen. And the legacy is still there. The Disability Discrimination Act has, I think, in large part created a disability advocacy sector that wouldn't have come about if the Act had simply been left unsupported. In a similar way, and I'm looking at you enviously from outside Victoria, that there was an implementation package attached to the Charter that made the Charter work for Victoria, however disappointed you may be in a way that the Human Rights Act in the ACT has never worked for the ACT, and that's a tiny jurisdiction. 370,000 people in the ACT, and they still don't know they have an act, because it was never accompanied by any larger strategy. So that's a short story, some broad, thoughtful mix over here.
My name is Jay, I'm an alumni of Deakin and also a business owner at the moment. I think a forum like this is very good because it sort of exposes some of the issues around racism. But I think we'll be failing to address the core issues of racism to focus just on the law and the legislation and bills, because that is just one side of it. That only addresses the issue of having consequences for everyone who does something. But I think race goes much more beyond that. Race is a thing of the heart. You cannot legislate law. And also the fact that we're even putting laws in place, it's, if you look at it, could be an addition that, okay, maybe there is something of an inequality between people. That's the issue of reverse racism too. So I think the last thing and the sustainable solution will be in the area of addressing the matter of the heart. How do you do that? That's something we need to do, because race goes beyond what you do. It's how you look, it's what you feel, it's what you think. Even if you don't say anything, you can feel it. So how do you address that? So I don't know if I have the answer, but it's just something that we shouldn't get stuck up in. Okay, there's a law there. It's one thing to say, okay, if I break the law, there's consequences, but it doesn't stop me from still hating you from my heart. So it's a hard thing. We need to address the issues of the heart to do that. The other thing would be how do you do it? Is it a subjective thing, or do you take your victim as you find them? Because what might be considered racism to one might not be to another. So there's a whole gamut of things to be looked into. So I think education like this is very important, that people need to know that you just got to accept your fellow human being as you, that physical attributes does not define a person. It's something in there. And I think the more we begin to look at that, those are going to have a better world for everyone. It's going to be a process, it won't be an
And it has to be a discussion we're prepared to have, and
That's correct.
prepared to talk about race and how we feel about race.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Absolutely.
Did any of you see the article that announced that they just cast an Indigenous actor in Neighbours? And when they spoke to the producer, he said, "Oh, it was an accident." He was just right for the part. I'm thinking, why would you go to such lengths to pretend you didn't know he was Aboriginal? Why does it not matter? Why do you want to say it doesn't? If it doesn't, okay, but he was so quick to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter that he's Aboriginal." Well, maybe it does. We just need to be able to say that with confidence. I'm conscious that I'm keeping after one. Those who need to go should
Just
go.
put two more questions.
Yes.
We have one down the front here and one here.
Okay.
Just been told to keep it short. Professor Rice, it's great to see you in Melbourne, even though it's only for a short time, so thank you for Deacons and Sloan. I just want to check whether I may have misunderstood or misheard you. I thought I heard you say that AD&D paraphrase was to ensure people are not thought of unfairly, so this follows almost the previous question. I thought the AD&D was really to limit public statements which cause that particular effect, or that would be the purpose of it. So to some extent I'm interested in what your views are about the purpose, but also whether I misheard you.
No, you didn't. And what I was trying to do, 18D is the defence, 18C is the provision. Take it as a package. My point there was, this is my way of trying to set up a dichotomy between what discrimination law does and why vilification law is subtly different. And I do think that if you said to yourself, why do we have discrimination law? We want people to treat each other fairly, and that can encompass speech. So you could say what we call vilifying is within a broad idea of discrimination. If discrimination is equal treatment, vilifying is unequal treatment. So then why do you have vilification? I think it's because vilification is trying to do more than mere equal treatment. It is actually trying to, in that clunky way that law does, it's not very good at doing, trying to get beyond ostensible treatment into even the ideas you have. I didn't mean to say it's about trying to change the way we even think of people. Vilification law is like a prompt to you to think, why am I referring to hogs and dags? Not why am I refusing to serve them, but why really do I think that they're different? Why is that the language I use? What is the instinctive reaction I have? And so that was what you heard was correct, and I may not be doing it very well, but it was my attempt to try and characterise vilification as doing something other than discrimination law and getting to a place in us that discrimination law doesn't necessarily get to. I'll have to work on it. I'll talk about it.
Agree, disagree.
Yeah, okay. No, as I say, it's just my attempt, but I'm really happy to talk to you more. Gary and I have been agreeing this every on things for a while.
Hi. Is it working? Yeah. My name is Luca, and I'm a lecturer at the law school in Vigan. And I just relocated here in Melbourne from Italy. And I'm new, so maybe I shouldn't even say anything about this. But, in my country, discrimination is kind of an issue. And we had several episodes that are sad and terrible. I think that as a lawyer, I completely agree with what you said. Completely. But as a lawyer, I think that this is a matter where law and justice overlap. And I like to think of law in terms of ex ante, so what you do before discrimination is done, so positive duties, and justice ex post. Okay? And my personal perspective is that we shouldn't be afraid to delegate to the judiciary some kind of duties here. In the sense, I always believed in the political role of the judges. I'm not afraid to describe it in terms of a political role. And I wouldn't be afraid to understand the role of the judiciary in terms of social engineers. who are able also to educate our society. And in this sense, discrimination is not just about money, it's about educating society and specific performance and writing a paper on specific performance and stuff in terms of apology and try to make people feel sorry, at least making them understand what they've done from the ethical legal perspective. That would be probably something to work on. Or
On the
I don't think that damages here. Let's say that discrimination is being done. Okay, I don't think that damages monetarily and money and just an economic approach to the issue would do anything. I think that we should play also in all the fields and.
Yep, I agree. And the damages is only an extension of the individual grievance model, which I think we've established is wholly inadequate.
Yeah.
I'll just pick up your comment on the judiciary. With respect to the fact you're relatively recently arrived, you want to keep practicing talking about an active judiciary while you're here, and you'll discover the particular Australian sensibilities to an active judiciary. But I agree with you. I put the judiciary in the category of potential leaders. When we know the discretions, the interpretations, the penumbra indiscriminationals that are available for judges to use to pursue the aims of legislation. Some of what I left out of what I had to say was reference to the judges' failure to give effect to the aims of discrimination and their long history. The High Court hasn't yet upheld a successful discrimination campaign. The High Court downs every single complainant who gets there, even if they've won in the court below. And it's through a very literal, non-purposive interpretation of legislation. So until we get judicial leadership along with political leadership, we're missing something in the campaign for it.
Maybe a good way to do that could be, as you suggested, to go back to the 70s and also look at Hayek and the notion of Hayek's notion of social justice. What do you mean by social justice?
Well, he actually doesn't believe. I mean, Hayek denies the validity of social justice.
In negative, I mean, moving backwards, I would start from that.
Okay, we'll have to talk some more. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon. That was inspiring, and it challenges all of us to, evaluate, think, and I suppose discuss this issue. It's so important. We are comfortable. We have got an unquestioned assumption of British norms still flowing on. The interface between free speech and harm that may flow from the dilution of protection against racial vilification. What should we do? We need to start thinking about this and talking about this a lot more. No one should be made to feel like crap just because of who they are. So a lot of synchronicity with the launch of the Beyond Blue advertising campaign today and the speech today. Anyway, look, thank you so much, and I'd like you all to join me in thanking